Okay, hey everyone. My name is Eytan. Like Jared said, I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico, so I'm out of this area, but I'm really excited to be here. Yesterday was just great to be in a totally different ecosystem, but still talk about some similar issues. I think, and I was just talking about how cross-pollination across the country, within your landscape, within your region, all that stuff's really important. So I just feel like this is a great forum to kind of soak things in, bounce around ideas. Um, I work for the Forest Stewards Guild. We're a national nonprofit. We have some hubs around the country, and we also have some professional membership. Our programs focus on uh, kind of finding place-based forest stewardship solutions because we were founded in New Mexico, where it is pretty dry, and but we still have trees and grass. Um, Fire has just been a part of our organization for a long time. Um, I'm going to talk about a report we did that just kind of finished in March. Um, but before I do that, because everyone's talking about oaks, here I'm going to show a picture of an oak that is from New Mexico. We usually have scrub oak, gamble or wavy leaf, sometimes silverleaf oak down on Gila. This is a gamble oak woodland, so our scrub oaks sometimes, through probably lots of years of stewardship and fire, can mature into woodlands. And so this is from the Zuni Mountains in west central New Mexico, where I've worked for a long time. And it just, just to kind of get a different visual flavor for oak around the country. So moving on, I want to thank the Nature Conservancy and the Fire Learning Network for funding this report. The QR code is there. I hope it works. If it doesn't, just see me afterwards. And then I also want to thank the people on the technical advisory committee that helped us navigate this as I get into the kind of effort. Fire is just, it's the same, but it's different. Fire culture is sometimes the same across the country. You can find similarities, but place-based fire culture just varies so much. So that theme is going to be recurring in these remarks about the report. Also, it is 86 pages. So there's a lot of information in there. I'm not going to be able to cover all of it now. Which is why the QR code is there. And we try to make it useful and to provide a snapshot to people. It's kind of already out of date, even though we just published it on our website in March. So things are changing. Things are happening from when we were pursuing funding to get the report started to now states with certified prescriber and manager programs and new legislation have already kind of been moving through the process and system. So it's just a really dynamic environment, which makes it exciting. So yeah, I don't have to preach the benefits of prescribed fire here to this crowd. You all know it. There's also been many fire needs assessments that show we have a national fire deficit. I was gonna put in a slide about the 2025 North America fire deficit paper that Sean Parks and Chris Gitterman and many other researchers were a part of. Didn't put it in here to save you all that, but it's pretty solid founding that we need more prescribed fire, and that brings us to how do you get there? There's different ways to get there. There's kind of a command and control pathway that has kind of a professional only workforce do it, led by agencies. And then there's this kind of more ground up pathway. And what this report shows is that there's kind of many different permutations all in between those ends of the spectrum getting played out across the country to different effects. And I think I also want to mention that while this report focuses on certified prescriber and manager programs, specifically, we tried to not ignore the larger context that all these programs exist in. So they exist in places that have like previous legislation, renewed legislation, different liability standards, different permitting requirements. And so we heard about liability claims programs. Those are emerging as well. So oftentimes these things are all getting wrapped together in bundles of change that are happening kind of all at once. So we try to address that and connect some of those lines in the report. Yeah, so the programs that exist across the country, we have some, many long-standing programs. We have brand new, yet to be deployed programs, but they're trying to provide some standardized instruction, provide kind of a level of care for people to say, I went through and I have some training, but they all have different outcomes, again, because every state, has a different fire culture, or lack thereof, different existing legislation, different levels of litigiousness, and then history of escapes. I come from New Mexico. We've had quite a few famous escape prescribed burns in New Mexico, and my whole career has kind of like been bookended or surrounded by these escapes. So those, and similarly, Colorado, my neighboring state, also has had some pretty bad prescribed fire escapes. So those really shape what's happening across the country. But the programs exist for different purposes. And here, this is what we've summarized kind of from around the country. Everything from wildfire mitigation to ecological purposes, and just increased confidence in this practice. So our goal at the beginning was to contact all 50 states. We were not able to get there with the push that we made, but we were able to contact 43. So I feel pretty good about that. 24 have certified prescribed burn manager programs. At the time, 3 were developing programs, and then there's 16 states that we talked to that don't have programs, and not every state wants or needs a certified prescribed burn manager program. I'm not here to tell everyone here that this is the golden ticket. This is what you need to get to the end state of more prescribed fire on the land. There's lots of different ways to get there. These programs are emerging. There seems to be a lot of rapid growth, and so it's worth it to take a look. But we definitely talked to states who said, this is not for us. We have a culture, we have a way of doing things, and we think this is going to get in the way. So we conducted these interviews with representatives from all 43 states. We tried to reach people. It was tricky because oftentimes the people that run these programs also do fire suppression. They're bouncing around the country. So we tried to categorize all the responses, and this is base level fact finding. This is not we're not trying to quantify consensus across the country, but I think it's still pretty interesting. Here's a map of the states with programs, the ones developing programs, ones without, and then the ones we weren't able to contact. So it gives you a snapshot of what it looks like across the country. The Great Plains, this Oklahoma to Nebraska stretch, they were the ones who were like, we don't think this is for us. We have a thing going. We're getting fire on the land. We don't want anything to get in the way. So, yeah, just a little bit more information about the states without the programs. They just didn't feel it would be beneficial for the state. They said, well, who's going to fund this if we were to pursue it? There was just, not feeling like there was a need. Into the states that were pursuing these programs. I think initially, in the early years of these programs, I was looking at more professional burners, contractors, NGOs, those that were kind of adjacent to agencies, but not necessarily in agencies. And then as this kind of evolution happened across time, more and more of these programs are targeting landowners, like we just heard this morning, targeting people who are managing their land. They want to use fire. They're looking to take that step, and these programs can support them. And then the other thing we found is, there's often a tiered approach. There's often something more attainable for lower complexity or smaller scale burns, and then a higher tier for those taking on those bigger burns. Not always, and that that tiered approach. I think we're playing out. We're seeing if it's working. Like, is it helpful? Like, some people are feeling like it's yet another barrier to doing the burns they want to do, to have to jump through more hoops. And some people feel, no, it's letting me do my small scale stuff. That it was easy to get there, so just a lot of variability here. So oftentimes, most of these programs have prerequisites combined with classroom instruction. A lot of programs have virtual classes now. One barrier to these programs that we found was that in states that were doing in-person training only, was that there was just one person who was delivering training, and they could only move around the state so often. So it was really hard. If you missed one, you have to wait a whole year to get the class again. I can tell you in New Mexico, we have an online module for the base classes. It's a nine section class. And the system is down. I just heard that earlier this week. So yeah, you can have a virtual program, but if someone's not tending to that digital system, paying for the subscription to Canvas, you get the same barriers as if you went the analog route of in-person classes. So there's no easy path here. You got to tend to all of these systems that get created. And then, yeah, most states have kind of in-person live fire components. Not all. Some you complete the classes and you kind of get your certification. But many have a live fire component, and some have workbooks or something like an NWCG position task book that you have to show or demonstrate proficiency. So there's taking the class in some states is just the beginning of your path. So once you're, some states you're certified for life, but some states you got to get recertified and stay refreshed. And yeah, and there's pluses and minuses to all of that, right? Like if you're in a state where it's really hard to access the refresher class, then you might lose your certification for a year until you can get that class again. And we heard that from some of the respondents. So it's tricky, So we also asked the states we talked to, where's the funding coming from? How many people are working on this in the state? And often it's a state forestry agency, Department of Ag, or Natural Resource Department. Usually it is just one or two people, which does create a challenge. Sometimes those people exist. They're the one person working on it. In some states, they have their kind of colleagues throughout the department helping them. And so there's just capacity limitations all around. And then as we heard this, earlier today, like prescribed fire councils are playing a role in supporting the rollout of these programs. And obviously not every state has a prescribed fire council, many do. And they're often helping these programs out. So back, just to dig in a little bit more on that variability, that uniqueness, states, all of these programs are unique to each state. Working across states is something I'll touch on in a sec. But these are just a list of kind of some of those unique issues state by state. And they drive variation in the programs from the target audience to how do you get certified, how many hours is the course. I know when we were developing the New Mexico program, we were really discussing is 8 hours too much? Could it be 24? Who's going to sit around for all these hours? So I mean, those are really important conversations. Another thing that emerged from the contact through the course of this report is putting very specific things in statute doesn't pay off because then you have to go back to change the statute. So saving a lot of those details to the rulemaking is going to help your state. So I mentioned this at the beginning that oftentimes these programs exist as part of a more cohesive package. So, clarifying liability, changing a state's liability standard for prescribed fire, addressing permitting issues, which are often another issues, particularly in Western states. And then, those loss backstops like claim funds are all kind of currently being packaged and built together. Not all the time, but that's kind of a trend. And then conditional liability. So can you create an incentive to being part of a certified, to getting the certification? And oftentimes that incentive is a more preferential liability standard for those who are certified. So, I think I have to mention National Wildfire Coordinating Group standards that many of you are probably very aware of or have a whole host of qualifications in. It's especially in Western states that have a big NWCG fire suppression background. Oftentimes these conversations start with, well, let's get the retired RXP2s in. And then once you start there, the question is, well, then how does someone go from 0 to being comparable as someone who spent 30 years attaining NWCG qualifications? And you have these really fascinating conversations. Some states have a mix of NWCG and kind of ground up programs, and then often they have a crosswalk. So people with NWCG quals can move into a new state system and get certified, and that's really important. So, yeah, that initial audience from agency staff, professionals, and contractors, transitioning to landowners, land trusts. And then, like we heard today, this kind of real ground-up movement of private landowners, ranchers leading the way, accomplishing thousands of acres is just really impressive. So the demand is growing across the country. So yeah, people are seeing that these benefits that, that if you can attain certification, you have like, you're getting your foot in the door, and you're getting out there, and it's helping people feel ready to burn. And that we heard that from many states. And then that that liability relief by attaining a certification is really helping, support people in making the decision to do a burn. So yeah, not without their challenges, limited staffing, high demand can stress a program. We heard that too. Legal clarity, I already mentioned the being too specific in your enabling legislation is another challenge. And then equitable access, whether it's in person or virtual, like you got to keep this thing running once you start it. I think really important to mention recognizing other states' programs and reciprocity between states is really important. People are moving across the country all the time. They want to continue burning. Also, if you're in a place that doesn't have a vibrant fire culture, but you have people that have these certifications, it can be a way to get some people in and get some momentum going. And then that conditional liability standard is really that carrot to get people to do the certification, to move into the program, to train others, to build that culture up. And people talked about the claims funds and their responses. They're like, yeah, the claims fund is really making people feel supported in going for a burn. So these are just some of our final recommendations. It's it's important to just think about all these things. Hopefully this report is a resource as people are in a rulemaking process or developing their own legislation or thinking about how they can make their existing program more adaptable and ready for the future. So I'll wrap it up there. And I don't know if there's time for any questions.
Yeah.